In this video, I'll show you how to save and store seeds so you have an endless supply of seeds from your garden. I'll also show you how to cut back your cover crops and get your perennial herbs ready for fall. I'm Angela from Growing in the Garden. My garden is in Mesa, Arizona in Zone 9B. I love sharing garden inspiration and helpful tips so you can be successful in your garden too. I spend late spring and early summer collecting seeds from the plants that I grow and then putting them in these paper sacks. I usually label them, which is a good thing because a lot of times the seeds look alike once you've got them in here. They spend the summer drying in a hall cupboard. They're all dry now, so I'm ready to sort them, clean them up, and get them ready to store and plant. Let's show you what I've got. We've got hollyhock, chamomile, foxglove, dill, lots of different seeds here. Let's get to work. Nasturtium seeds make it pretty easy. They come off the plant looking like this, and once they're dry, all I need to do is label and put them away. Flowers are one of my favorite things to save seeds from. They really make it easy on us. So these are some straw flowers. Look at that. These have dried in this paper sack over the summer, and now the seeds are ready to store. The seeds are on these little parachutes. You can see the seeds in there. The easiest thing to do with these is to give the bag a little shake. Pour all the straw flowers into here and give it a little shake. Using a colander is an easy way to separate the chaff from the seeds. So there's still a little bit of chaff in here, but that's okay. So between each seed, you really want to clean out your containers or you're going to have random seeds popping up, which is kind of fun, but you may want to avoid that. Get that all cleaned out and let's get to the next one. Let's see what's next. Another really easy seed is chamomile. Once you harvest those blooms, then you can see each bloom has dozens of seeds right there. When I save chamomile, I keep them just like this and put them in the paper envelope until I'm ready to plant. Look at all those seeds. I've got so many seeds, I'll probably use some of these for tea as well. Penstemon is a spring blooming perennial that grows really well from seed and often drops seeds and reseeds. To keep it from doing that, I collect the spikes of penstemon seeds so I can save to plant in other areas and share with others. Separating the seeds is easy. Allowing them to dry lets the seeds fall out of the pods. And then you can crush the pods a little bit as well to get those remaining seeds out. Look at all those seeds. That is a lot of penstemon plants. This is firecracker penstemon. I know I say this all the time, but larkspur really is one of my favorite flowers. So I collected lots of seeds from larkspur last year. One thing to be aware of with larkspur seeds, and the whole plant actually, is that it's poisonous. So you want to be careful handling these seeds. It's a good idea to wear gloves, just to stay on the safe side. My favorite part about wildflowers is typically when you plant them, they're going to come back each year. So this means not only will I have plants coming back in the same spot as last year, but I can also plant in new areas and save some seeds to share with others. Got snapdragon seeds. These are also really tiny. A lot of those seeds fell right to the bottom of the sack. When you look how expensive it is for a package of seeds and how many seeds you can get from just a couple of plants, it really makes sense to try and save seeds. So snapdragons, the seeds form in these little pods. Right there. See all those seeds in there? Each stem has lots of pods. So look at how many seeds you can get from just one stem of flowers. California poppies. Who doesn't love poppies? Look at all those seeds. So a lot of seed pods will burst open once they're dry. So that's why putting them in a paper sack and letting them dry makes our job so much easier, because those seeds are just going to fall right out. When you're saving seeds, moisture is not your friend. Really letting things dry out very well is the key to having seeds saved successfully. If there's any moisture, they're going to get moldy and rot and not do well. Plenty of chaff in here too, and again, with a wildflower, I'm okay with that because it helps when I scatter the seeds to have a little bit of chaff mixed in there too. We've saved seeds from a lot of flowers, but herbs are also very easy to save seeds from. Herbs like dill and cilantro bolt and produce a flower stalk, and those flowers develop into seeds. These seeds are a little bit larger, so they won't fit through the colander. But really what I'm doing now is just removing some of the large stems and chaff. Just gonna throw some of this in here like that. Lots and lots of dill seeds. Cilantro is really easy to save seeds from, and it's one of those crops that the name changes, in fact, from cilantro to coriander when it becomes seeds. So this bag is full of coriander seeds. They're delicious to use in cooking. So I'm gonna separate some of this chaff and save these seeds. So this coriander has a lot of chaff in it, and in order to use it, I probably want to separate this chaff. So the easiest way to do that is going to be with some sort of a fan or with a blow dryer, and you'll pour it out and then blow the chaff away, and then the seeds, the heavier seeds, will fall down. So there's still some chaff in here that I could probably get out with the colander, but we got out most of that smaller chaff. If you don't harvest artichokes and instead let them flower, those flowers are going to develop into seeds. I normally save the seeds from artichokes, but this year July got so hot just as the seeds were forming. I'm interested to see how well the seeds formed in that extreme heat. So these seeds that are forming, even though this was my largest artichoke and I left it on the plant, look how small those seeds are. So there are seeds, but they're really small and not fully developed. So I definitely don't want to save these seeds to plant again because the plants won't grow as well. And they may not even germinate. These are seeds I saved in a previous year, and look at the size difference. Nice, large, plump seeds. I'm actually starting some artichoke seeds indoors right now. Nice plants have grown from these seeds. So I'm definitely not going to save the seeds from this artichoke this year. So it's important to know what the seeds are supposed to look like. And that way you can ensure that you're saving high quality seeds that will give you high quality plants. Are you ready to see some really ugly seeds? Calendula seeds. Look at that. These little worm-like things are the seeds. Isn't that crazy? Each one of these little worm-looking things will develop into a beautiful calendula plant. Leave the biggest blooms on the plant, let them dry, and then harvest those seeds. So I've got lots and lots of seeds from just one plant. All that's really left for me to do is to just put these in a jar, and then I will separate them. So I'll dump the bag in here and separate out some of this chaff, some of the biggest stems. See some of those flower petals in there. Look at all those seeds. Hollyhocks are another really easy flower to save seeds from. I let them dry on the stem and then cut off the stem. And again, put them in my trusty paper sack. Now I'll separate out some of these seeds. So each blossom has so many seeds. So I'd encourage you to learn about the plants that you're growing and learn how to save seeds. Saving seeds has so many benefits, and it's so fun to have seeds from your own garden to share with others at seed swaps. There's no way that I could ever use all of these seeds, and so it's fun for me to have seeds to share when I get together with other gardeners. So the seed of the hollyhock is actually this black part here. So this is all just chaff or part of the blossom, part of the stem. You can see the seed is this black part, and it's formed really well. So these are going to be great seeds to save. Hollyhock plants can grow large, and all of that comes from one of these tiny seeds. So lots of seeds in here. I typically, again, won't remove a lot of chaff and then just store this in a jar until I'm ready to use or share with others. Marigolds have a little bit of a special place in my heart because they were the first seeds that I saved. When I discovered how many seeds you could get from a marigold seed, I was astonished, and I was kind of hooked on seed saving. So marigolds, same principle, allow the most beautiful blooms to dry on the plant. And then I just put them in a paper sack. The seed is going to be this dark part here at the end. Looks like these may not be the best ones to save because you want that part of the seed that you're saving to be nice and black. So these seeds didn't fully develop, so I probably won't save these seeds because they aren't as black as I like. Let's see if we've got any others in here that are better. All right, so these seeds may be a victim of that crazy July weather too. There's a couple in here that are good. See that nice dark seed there? All right, so what I'm seeing through here is a lot of these seeds didn't have the chance to fully develop before it got hot. Learn about the seeds that you're growing and what they're supposed to look like, because these marigold seeds didn't develop as much as I would like, so I'm not going to save these. Who doesn't love sunflowers? I usually have so many sunflowers growing in my summer garden. The birds eat the seeds and often plant next year's seeds for me. But I try and save a few blooms from my favorite plants, so I have some to share with others. To save the seeds from sunflowers, you're looking for a few different things. You want the petals to fall off, and the back of the sunflower is going to change from yellow to brown. Leave it on the plant as long as possible. These have fully dried, so they might be a little bit tricky to get the seeds from. They get really hard. This type of sunflower is a beautiful branching sunflower. So I'm definitely saving seeds from this one. So you want the seed to be nice and dark and fully developed and really plump, and that's going to give you the best plant. Bachelor buttons are one of the first flowers to bloom in the spring, and saving the seeds couldn't be easier. Let's see what I've got. I've got lots of blooms in here. Bachelor button seeds are going to form at the base of the flower. They have this seed that has, it looks like a little bit of hair on top of it. So that's a bachelor button seed right there. These seeds seem smaller than normal to me this year, so I'm not going to save them. Normally the seed head is bigger. We get some bigger seeds off of it. These are kind of puny, so I don't really want to save the seeds this year. There are plenty of reasons why saving seeds is a good idea. Each seed has unique genetic information, and by saving seeds, you're ensuring that those unique traits are preserved for future generations. Seeds that I save from my garden have acclimated to growing in my garden and are more likely to be successful and grow again. The most important thing is to keep your seeds at a consistent temperature. Whether that's in the fridge and you only get into the seeds once a year, or in a hall closet that's cool and dark if you're getting into them often. I'm growing buckwheat in this bed as a cover crop, but now that it's blooming, it's time to cut it back. If I leave these blooms on the plant, they're going to develop into seeds, and then I'll have buckwheat for years to come. So I want to cut this back before these blooms develop into seeds. Cutting it back is easy. I snip it off at the base, leave the roots in place. There's quite a bit of mulch still left here, so I'm going to pull back some of this mulch before I put the buckwheat on it. I like to leave the roots in the soil to disrupt the soil as little as possible. Okay, so I've got all this buckwheat. Just going to lay it down, kind of divide it up between these squares here. Some nice green manure for the soil. This will break down really fast, but to help it out, I'm also going to top it with some compost. So compost also does a lot of really good things for your soil. It'll be amazing how quickly this breaks down. So I'll want to wait to plant for probably at least a couple of weeks. I don't like to leave any soil uncovered, so I'm going to go ahead and put the mulch back on top. Do your thing, buckwheat. Cover crops are an idea that home gardeners can borrow from farmers. The idea is to grow something in the soil when it's not being used, to keep that microbiology going in the soil, to cool the soil from the sun's harsh rays, especially during the hottest months of the year. And then the bonus is you're going to have all of these greens that are going to add organic matter back into your soil. The best time to cut back a cover crop is before the flowers start to set seed. These cowpeas are just starting to flower, so it's the perfect time to cut them back. Plan ahead so you have enough time for that organic matter to break down before you plant your next crop. Lots of cowpeas here. I'm going to clip them off at soil level, leaving those roots in the ground. Cowpeas are in the legume family, which means they can also be nitrogen fixers. So we definitely want to leave those roots in the ground. Cutting all of these off. It's okay if you have other things growing in the bed. Just kind of work around it and do the best you can. Pulling them back, cutting off at the roots. I have all the cowpeas cut back, and there's still a thick layer of mulch in this bed, so I'm going to take off this mulch. And just do the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. The idea though, we're trying to get those cover crops right down in the soil, on top of the soil. So this is what you call a chop and drop. Really, we're chopping off these crops and then we're going to drop them right back on top of the soil. I'm going to get this mulch off first. If you don't have a lot of mulch on your beds, if it's mostly broken down, it's okay to put that cover crop right on top of the mulch. But I have a pretty thick layer of wood chips here, so I want to go ahead and remove that first. I've got the mulch mostly pulled back. You can see these cute stems here. Don't worry, they're going to break down, add organic matter to the soil as well. You can do a couple of different things. You can chop all of this up into different pieces, or you can do what I do and just lay it on the soil, and it's going to break down quicker than you think it will. I have the cowpeas chopped off and put in place on top of the soil, and now I'm going to top it with compost. So if you don't want to add compost, that's okay, but compost is definitely going to speed the process up a little bit and add lots of good things to your soil. Never a bad idea to add compost. Running out of compost, but that's okay. Just do the best you can. Think of all the good things that are going to be happening in this soil as these cover crops break down. Remember that mulch we took off? It's time to add it back on top. I want to leave that soil exposed. This mulch is going to hold in that moisture. That will allow those crops to break down. And then in a few weeks when I'm ready to plant, I'll pull back the mulch a little bit and plant right around it. This bed is good to go. I'm going to wait a few weeks and then get some cool season crops planted in here. Don't forget to water in that compost. That's going to help get things started breaking down. Fall is one of the most beautiful times for roses. To encourage blooms in the fall, you just do a couple simple things. First, I'm going to prune this lightly all over and then give it some fertilizer. Really, you don't want to prune it back by more than 1/3, but you're thinking about just lightly pruning all over the rose, because as roses bloomed in the summer, I didn't deadhead them because cutting back in the summer just caused more stress on these roses. So now I'm giving them just a little trim to shape and keep this more manageable. So some of these stems that are growing up, I'm just going to cut above 5 sets of leaves typically. Come around, just give it a light pruning. You definitely want to wear gloves, long sleeves. Give your pruners a good cleaning, sanitize your pruners, and then sharpen them just a little bit before you get started. Make sure everything's nice and sharp. Just going through and lightly pruning through here. This will help get some of that old growth off of the roses. Put them in a good position to have a beautiful bloom this fall. So this is a James Galway rose. It's a climbing rose from David Austin. It's been here a few years. Really love it. Stunning, stunning blooms. Okay, look at these flowers that still tried to bloom in the heat. We're going to have lots more of those coming up here as temperatures cool. So you really want to wait to do this until the nighttime temperatures are starting to drop, which they have. Otherwise you can burn your plant. Roses are pretty amazing. They grow really well here in the desert. Just getting it shaped up so you don't have too many unruly branches. Looks like this one is good to go. The next thing I'll do to get these roses ready to bloom is give them some organic fertilizer. Read the back of the fertilizer package because that's going to tell you how much fertilizer to use. The amount you use is also going to vary depending on the size and age of your plant. So for each of these roses, I'm going to use about 3/4 of a cup of this fertilizer. So I will pull back the mulch a little bit and work it into the soil. I'll just kind of work it into the soil and put that mulch back in place all around the plant. Put that mulch back in place and then I will water it in. This one looked pretty dry to me. I'm going to make sure and get it nice and watered. I probably need to come back and check this watering system later. I've only got 2 roses, so now I'm all done. At the end of the summer, your perennial herbs might be looking a little worse for the wear. Once temperatures cool down, I like to give them a nice trim. This sage is really happy in this spot and has grown really well, but I want to encourage some new growth. So I'm going to prune off some of this older growth and shape it up a little bit. So as I cut in here, oh, there's probably a hornet's nest in here. Yep, there is. There's a hornet's nest. I think I'm going to find a different herb to cut back. This thyme fared pretty well this summer. I'm just going to give it a little trim all over just to encourage some new growth. Clean it up a little bit. Thyme is definitely one of my favorite herbs. Giving it a little prune, just cutting it back by a little bit all over, just to encourage some new growth. Clean it out a little bit. After you lightly prune your herbs all over, it's always a good idea to feed them just a little bit. So I like to feed worm castings. So I'll just sprinkle a few worm castings around the base of the plant. Looks like the drips are on, so they'll water them in for me. Just give them a little bit of extra nutrients here. I want to encourage some new growth. You might remember this pepper plant that I pruned all the way back a few weeks ago. Look at it now. So much new growth and lots of blossoms. Remember that loofah that I hand pollinated just over a week ago? Look at it now. And look, I spotted 2 female loofah blooms today. Yay! If you would like to learn more, consider joining Growing in the Garden Academy. I teach a live online course every month about seasonal topics, and members have access to recordings of all past classes. Academy members also receive my garden journal, what I'm planting, harvesting, and doing in my garden, delivered to their inbox every 2 weeks. I hope to see you there. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you're saving any seeds.